Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I'm working on my 1986 Vauxhall Cavalier. Today we're going to be looking at replacing a CV joint gaiter or rubber boot. I was doing my pre-MOT checks a few days ago, well actually a couple of weeks ago now, and I just so happened to come across that the boot on the driver's side front wheel was just starting to have a little bit of a tear in it, just through the rubber sort of going, getting old. This may have been done in the past, hasn't been done by me, so and I've had the car I think about 6 or 7 years now, so it doesn't get used in the winter. It sits out here because I have got a garage, but I've got another car in there that I'm working on at the moment. So yeah, we're going to get set up, get it jacked up, take the wheel off. I'm going to replace the boot with a new one rather than the whole joint or the whole drive shaft, because, well, that's just me, isn't it? Why make things easy for myself, eh? Okay, so let's get this jacked up. Wheel chocks are in. Handbrake on, in gear. Just a couple of little things I do just to make sure it's not going to roll away on us. Handbrake's pretty good on this car anyway. One thing you should do before you jack the car up, these are 19 I think, yep, is just loosen your wheel bolts off. Makes it way easier to undo them rather than being up in the air. So get a ratchet, these are not too tight on here, they're only done up to 90 Newton meters. And when you've got a nice long ratchet like I have here, it makes it really quite easy. Right. So I'm just going to be jacking up along the sill here. I've got my axle stand here that I'm going to place underneath there. Try and find somewhere solid to put the axle stand. In my case, I'm just going to put it just under here where the wishbone attaches to the body. I don't know if you can see that. Is that showing it? I can't see. That's it, that's showing it. Yeah. Pull that up a little bit. There we go. Right, I'm going to let the car down onto that now. Car down nice and slowly. There we go. That's off of there now. Leave that there, we shouldn't need that anymore. One thing you should try and do as well, make sure it's nice and safe. So give it a good wobble, it shouldn't go anywhere. I'd advise you to try and get it as high as you can on this side, because we are removing the shaft out of here. The higher you can get it, the oil will go to the other side of the gearbox, and it won't try and come out through the actual drive output shaft of the gearbox, if that makes sense. So let's just get this off. So with stuff like this, I don't usually look at manuals, although I have done in the past, just to get an idea of how stuff comes apart. I'm not actually going to do that today. Not everyone's got a manual, and to be quite honest, this should be fairly straightforward to to actually, it'll be obvious that what we actually need to do, hopefully. I will be using the manual for the torque specs when we put stuff back together, and stuff will be torqued up as well. Try and put your wheel underneath the sill there, and then if anything does drop, you've got half a chance of getting the jack back underneath it again. Okay, so let's have a look here. So this is the shaft I need to get out, and I'm not going to be able to turn that round. If Sam can just get in there with his camera, we can show, if you were focus just here, I don't know if there's enough light. Yeah, you can see the, it'll help if I take it out of gear to do this. Bear with me 1 second. You can see where the rubber's starting to dry rot on here. This at the moment in itself isn't actually an MOT failure. It is, however, an advisory. I like to try and keep this car advisory free if I can. Yeah, I don't know, it's a pride thing, I think, for me. I just like it to be spot on. So this looks quite easy, really. I think all I'm going to need to do is undo this hub nut here, loosen this bottom ball joint off. Hopefully that gives us enough to be able to drop that down a little bit, lift this up and pull it and move it over out the way. That's what I'm hoping. We might need to undo this tie rod end here just to give us that little bit more movement. So first of all, just take this cotter pin out, just like that. You should ideally use a brand new one when you're putting it back together. I have got some that we can use. What am I after? I'm after a nice big socket now, preferably one that fits that. Let's see what we got. This is a 30mm, which is perfect. Now, remember what I was saying before about keeping the wheel on? This could potentially become a problem for us. We can just whack the wheel back on and probably put it back onto the ground and just go through the hub nut there. The other thing you can do is use an air tool to whip that off, or if you've got a friend with you, they can press the brake pedal for you. Okay.
Yeah, done it.
Yep, done. That was quite easy. If you've got vented disc brakes, you can sometimes put a screwdriver in there, in between the vents, and against your brake caliper there. That will obviously lock the disc in place for you. So that's loose. This, yeah, we're going to need to take this right out. There we are. That's that off. Right. Now that we took that off, we're going to put it back on again. This time the opposite way round. Which is a bit tricky considering it's a castellated nut. The idea is I'm just going to get myself a hammer, just give it a bit of a whack on the end here, and that will loosen the drive shaft out of the hub here, So we're just going to get that wound on. Of course it's gone tight again. Bit of squirt. Try and go backwards a little bit. That might be enough, to be fair.
Yep.
I'm going to use a copper face mallet here today just to knock this. See, that's starting to move. You should have plenty of movement in the shaft, especially towards the end there, because that, as you're steering, that naturally has movement in and out there. There we go. Just enough to move it. That's all we need. Okay, right, bottom ball joint next. It's slowly making its way out. Quite like the style of this because it looks like it's a reusable one. If we just give it a bit of a lever with a screwdriver. Being a little bit of a challenge to get that out. There it goes, starting to come now. As I say, I've not had any of this out since I've had this. Since I've had the car, so it's done remarkably well, really. And that's the pin just there. And that obviously goes through the hole, and then this bit clips over the top of the castle nut on top. Try and work out what size that is. There's no way we're going to get a socket in there on that. The bottom ball joint on here is 19mm, which thankfully I could get my ring spanner back on there. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a knock round. Hopefully that'll undo it without spinning the whole thing. It looks like we're in luck. I have just put a drop of WD-40 on there. Let's get it going. There we go, that's that off. Right, now we've got to try and push this out of there, and that means putting pressure on this, putting downward pressure on the wishbone here. The other thing we could probably do is get a lever bar and lever it against the CV joint there. So I've got a couple of levers here, and what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and get in between the CV joint here and put my bar on top there.
See that T6?
So in this sort of arrangement here, and I'm going to try and just give it a little bit of downward pressure to try and see if we could get this to pop out. Just gone and grabbed a couple of hammers. And I'm going to go either side of the of where it goes through there, and I'm going to try and hit them both at the same time, which is easier said than done. This can create a little bit of a shock wave within the joint there and loosen it up if we're lucky. Let's get that, put that nut back on there briefly. That gives us a bit more to push down on, hopefully. Ouch. See, at this point we might be fighting against this not being able to drop any lower. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring the jack in over here a little bit, just to get more stuff in our way. And all I'm going to do is just take the pressure off of this. Where's my handle gone? There it is. So this, we're just pushing the suspension up a little bit. This is to allow more movement in the wishbone there. That's the idea anyway. Let's try shocking it. That's just moving, isn't it? Try this instead. One ain't gonna work. Oh, okay, let's try that. I don't think that is wanting to come out of there very easily. Let's give it a few whacks with the hammer. Take the nut off again. So what I'm just going to do, jack this hub up a little bit more. Now, you don't want to go too far because you will start jacking the whole car up. That's not necessarily what you want, and this is a bit precarious well, the way that is as well. There you go, that's me for you. Okay, let's see if we can leave this off a bit more if we can. Almost out all the way. Let's see if we could get that up a little bit more. So we're just going to get a bit of height on that. Just a little bit. Don't want to go too mad, and we haven't really got any pressure on there, just fighting against the spring. And now we'll try again and hopefully get this out again. Oh, it's moving a bit easier this time, I think. Let's get that out of the way. Try this one instead. Sorry. Right, let's see if we can push down on the wishbone against the hub. Yeah, we could probably do it go like this. That's got it.
Got it.
That's got it. Ow. Okay. So now we need to take the pressure off of the jack a little bit and not allow it to go in there. Don't want that. That's it. Alright, push that out of the way. I'll get in and see that. So what I've just done, I've just pushed down on the wishbone joint and actually move this bottom ball joint out of the way. So that will give us hopefully a little bit of movement on this now, so we can take that right off. Move that out of the way. Right, let's see what we got. Perfect. So we've got a nice amount of movement there. Washer's dropped out. So now hopefully we'll be able to pull this out enough. And yes, we can. And there's our CV joint. I always get my pry bar in between here and basically this bolt. And what I'm going to do, is lever that out hopefully, which isn't working. Let's try the other way. Yeah, that's it. And this should simply pop out. Right, that's it. That's just gone. That's just gone. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to get out the way. I'm going to go and grab a oil container just in case any oil comes out. So, yep, alright, okay, let's get out of there then. So I just got my oil catch pan, stick that right under there, just in case we get any oil drip out, which we are starting to get a few drips now. So all I need to do now literally is hopefully give it a pull. A bit of a twist on the way out as well. Right, annoyingly, this has got like a damper ring on it, which I think is hitting against the engine here. So I'll try and move my hub out of the way. That's it. That's got it. Right, now we've just got to try and fish this thing out of here. Annoyingly, the oil filter's slightly in the way. Right, let's see if we can come out a different way. joint all the way out of there if we can. You can start to see that we're getting transmission oil leaking a little bit, which was expected. Don't do it the way I've done it. Try and go the other way if you can. I think we would have got a bit more room. Do as I say, not as I do. If you've got one of these damper rings on here, it's probably worth taking that off first, just to give you that little bit more wriggle room. There we go, that's that out. It's got quite long threads on that. Right, let's spin that round. Hopefully this side won't be too tight. No, it's actually hand tight. Now we took the pressure off of it. Right, okay, cool. Hopefully that'll come out a bit better now. Huh. Yeah, the difference that made. And there we have it. A baby shaft was born. Right, okay, let's take this to the garage and make a start on exchanging that. So yeah, as you can see, this is why in actual fact there is a little bit of grease coming out of there. So first things first, we'll get these pinged off of here. Use this saw. That's one. Now the other. There we go. So now we just pull this joint, this back here. There we go. Now we try and work out how this comes off of here. One of two ways. Sometimes they've got a little clip in there that you've got to try and find and squeeze, then that'll simply pull off. Or sometimes they're just a spring clip fitting similar to what's on the end here, so it'll just simply hit off with a hammer. So I've got most of the joint cleared up away here, and as I've been cleaning it, I've just been giving it a bit of a roll round. That's feeling really nice and smooth to me, and that's what you're kind of looking out for with this, is any graunchiness or anything like that's probably just worth replacing it. Now, as I said to you earlier, we're looking for a clip, and right in the middle here is just that clip just there. I don't know if you could quite see that. Let me throw some light on the subject. Oh, sorry, right, okay. You can see the clip just there. Now hopefully that should be just a compression clip, so I'll just get some needle nose pliers, compress that in, and then that joint should hopefully slip off nice and easily. So I've got cameraman Sam to help me there, so I'm just going to get my punch tool and hopefully just try and knock it out while he holds the clip open. That's got it. Okay, can let go of that now. And there's a little clip just there, just clips into that groove in there, and that's what locks it in place. Right, so I was just saying, I'm not going to give this a right good clean out because there's nothing wrong with this grease. There's no sort of dirt or crap in there, because we actually caught the boot failing early on really. So we're just going to give it a bit of a clean up on the shaft there. There we go. Right, now we can slip the old boot off. Doesn't look like there's much wrong with it now. So yeah, there you can see the cracks just there. So yeah, as I said before, this wouldn't have been a failure, it would have been an advisory on the MOT. It's not one I'm too interested in finding out, to be honest. As I said before, I quite like to keep my cars generally in good condition, and I find it a great, it's really not a nice feeling knowing that you've got an advisory on a car on something that you've checked and think is going to be okay or whatever. Anyway, that's enough of me rabbiting. I'm going to get the new CV boot and clips, and we'll slide that on there, pull it back on and pull it back on the car. As simple as that.
Yep.
Right, so I've gone for this Shaft Tech CV boot. Hopefully it's the same. So it comes with obviously the new boot, some nice new grease to put in there. Now it does come with these metal cable ties, which if I'm honest I'm not all that keen on, but it's all I've got at the minute. So we'll just have a quick check, make sure they're roughly the same size, and yep, they are, so that's good. So we can slide this one on. Normally if you've got those type of clips like similar to what's come off of there, you would put the clip on first. So that's always a good tip, but these are basically a metal cable tie. So push that on, that slips on nicely. And now with this, or as this we'll simply do with this, is we just push it on. Just get the splines lined up. The clip will open itself, and then it will lock itself in on there just like that. Easy, easier than taking it off. So we've got this new grease that we can now fill the joint up with, and of course I've got a knife perfectly in my reach. Okay, so now we'll just try and get most of this grease out of here, and as I said before, you can see from the colour of it, it's exactly the same colour as the stuff that's come out of there. So try and push that in, give it a manipulate round. Now we can probably turn the shaft a little bit. Get some more grease in there. It's got to be the most messiest grease in the world, this has. It's really quite sticky. Give that a bit more of a manipulate. Just try my best and work it way in there. Sorry. Try and roll this stuff out of here if I can. Oh, lovely, look at that. So what I'll probably try and do in a minute is actually just manipulate. Yeah, in actual fact, let's make a total mess. Try and push as much of this in there. It's probably quite a bit in here already because it's not a dry joint. It's not a brand new joint like you normally probably use. But have plenty of tissue and rag and things to be able to clean your fingers up, because this stuff does go everywhere. It's quite a sticky grease, which of course whoops, needs to be. Just get that round to where it's, there we go. Just work it in a little bit more. Final mix round. Hopefully as you use the car, the heat from the joint, from the engine, from the weather even, will heat the grease up, and it will just make it that little bit more less viscous and be able to get into the joints a little bit better. So all I'm doing now is trying to push this boot back on there. I'm trying to push from the opposite end so it kind of hopefully finds its own way on, just like sort of like that. Oh, there we go. Come on baby, let's get you. There we go. Nice. So now we're completely covered in grease. Brilliant. Okay, cool. As I say, plenty of paper. Probably best to have a tidy workstation as well. Not like me, got rubbish everywhere. So push that end on a bit more so you can see where the old shaft was sitting just there. You can see where it's just that little bit cleaner. So we're just going to let that fall back in to where it was. We just want to make sure that there's plenty of movement in this and make sure it's not going to stretch the new boot too much. I've got a little new tool to try out here. Now this is supposed to do both style of clamps. For this one we're going to be using this. I don't know how it works. We'll try and work that out on the way using this large one, I think. As I said before, these are basically cable ties. So you push it in and there's a little ball bearing that sits in there and it won't allow you to pull it back out. I haven't worked out. I'm not keen on the idea of using cable ties, especially ones like this, because there's the potential there for this to come open over time, which I'm not too, but it's all I've got at the moment. So we're just going to have to put up with it and use it. So let's see how this goes. That looks like it cuts. So I think we feed. Yeah, I see. So we feed that through there, maybe. Oh no, they've got a little slit on the end there. So I assume that slit goes right through. This is used to cut it. I don't think we're going to get enough slack on there to be able to use this as intended. I don't think. No, definitely not, I'll say. think the idea is there's supposed to be enough slack to be able to go right through to this end here where you're able to wind it on. That doesn't look like is going to be the case with this one though. So we might have to try and tighten it up as best we can using some grips or something. Having greasy fingers isn't exactly helping here. I think after the MOT I'm going to cut these off and actually just put proper bands on, I think. You see how much movement is in that as I'm pulling on that and holding it back with the screwdriver. You can kind of see it move forward and then back. That's the trouble with that ball bearing being in there. Maybe if I was to do it backwards on itself, the ball bearing won't want to come forward, although I think it probably will. Let's try that. Okay, have we got long enough? No. Crap. Okay, so try grabbing that, holding it back with a screwdriver here. Oh. I think that'll probably have to do. Not really keen on that, if I'm honest. There you go, let's try this one. Try a bigger screwdriver. Oh, don't do that, don't do that. Let's point him downwards. Okay. I really don't like how loose these are. Is that going to be... Are we actually going to be able to use this as it's intended? No, look, I mean, look at how much you've got excess you've got to have in to get that into there. Well, I don't think that's going to be enough to... Nah, didn't think so. Nah, you need that quite a way in there. That's a lot of excess you need to use that tool. And I don't really like the tightness of this either. I prefer it to be a lot tighter than that. I don't think we're going to get much more on that, to be fair. That's actually pretty tight now. So let's see if these will cut. No, even my cutters are bad. There we go. I really am not impressed with this this system they're using here. I get why they've done it. It's easier for people, I suppose, but even I've managed to in the past and not having the proper tools and that. It's just all this. Anyway, what's done is done. There's hardly any excess on that one. Give that a bit of a cut there. I'll say cut. more like bend it backwards and forwards till it snaps, because my cutters are really good. There we go. Right, okay. So there we are, we've finally got those on. We've just given it a final clean up really. I think what I'm going to do when the weather gets a bit better, I'm just going to replace them with some proper ones. Right. Shall we get this fitted back to the car? Right, just giving that end of that shaft a bit of a wipe over. Now we need to post it back through the letterbox here. Okay. This is as simple as guiding it in, feeling it like line up, which it is, and then we get to the end here and give it a good shove and it should clip back in. Like that. You can tell it's in because if I get back under here, that's nicely clips back in now. Good. Let's get the other side in. Just before I do that, just give that a bit of a clean. Okay. So now we're going to try and get this back in. There we go, guide that back into the hole there. That's gone in beautifully. Okay, cool. That's what I'm going to do next. Raise the wheel up a little bit again. Ouch. And not bang your head against this. The car is always a good thing to do. Oh, damn it. Just catching against the backing plate there. Okay, so I'll raise that up a little bit against the suspension again. Of course that's going to try and that's trying to push against my leg. Let's try and there we go. Just a bit of brutality there. Okay, let's try and get this shaft lined up now. Let that come in. That's it, that's got it, that's got it. Look at that. Lovely. Lovely, look at that. Right, the only problem we've potentially got now is when we tighten this nut back up. We won't be able to torque that unfortunately because I'm using a 19mm spanner. Again, I'm just going to use this bit of lube up here just to kind of help with the threads and that a little bit. so it's a bit better for us to get off the next time. Right, okay. So now I'll start the slow process of retightening this. Hopefully this won't, what can happen with it, with this bottom ball joint, is the joint itself will start spinning. Let me just move that around a bit, there we go. This is a taper, I don't know if you see, but this is like a taper joint fitting, so if it does start spinning round on you before you've even got the nut fully tightened, is you can put a little bit of pressure on this bottom here using the jack, bit of upward pressure to force that taper into the hub joint there. Right, so we're just starting to tighten up now, and believe it or not, that is doing up quite nicely. Right, so let's get the spanner on there. Try and get it as tight as it was before. Unfortunately, like I say, we're not able to torque this up really because of, well, I don't think you could buy a spanner that's actually a torque wrench, but there you go. So we'll just get it tight as it was before. Make sure you got the hole lined up with one of the castles there, one of the gaps in the castellated nut. That'll enable us to put this dodgy looking pin back in. Oh, there we go. That's that back in, and that will lock that in place. So I haven't forgotten this. That went on around about there somewhere. Okie dokie. Get that somewhere near tight so we can still move it about, but it'll hold its own position hopefully. Right, so where did that go roughly? It must have went, did it go on there? No. About there where that mark is. That sat on that thicker bit there. Oh, it seems to be doing up alright. Oh, Mr. Robin over there, come to say hello. There we go. They weren't particularly tight to begin with. Believe it or not, I'm just going to whack the wheel on. wheels back on. Just going to put a bit of torque on these just to set the wheel. I think we're going to stop for a nice cup of tea now. We're going to, after we've had our tea break, we're going to lower the car back down. I'm going to put the hub nut back on. We're going to put the hub nut back on and then torque it back up and then put the clip back on. So we'll come back to you in a minute. Right, welcome back to us. Tea has now been made. What I'm gonna do, I'll put the wheel back on, as you know. Just gonna jack the car up. I'm gonna get it off its axle stand. And we're actually gonna get it back onto the floor. There it is. Cool. Okay, right. That's just should give us enough grip. Right, so what I'm going to do, as I've done before, is just use a bit of this excess grease that we got. This is the washer that come out of there. Let's give that a bit of a rub over. Probably should have done that before sticking my fingers in grease. There you go. Get some of the rubbish off of that. Drop it a few times. That looks to me that went on that way. Hub nut. Where's that grease packet gone? There it is. And again. Just give that a bit of a clean up. Just a little smear of grease in there. It'll have to be, because that's about it from that. So the Haynes manual says on this, we tighten this nut up first of all to 100 Newton meters of torque. So got my torque wrench here. Set this to 100 Newton meters. This one isn't particularly a great torque wrench, to be honest, because it shows like odd 98, and then you'd think, oh, it would be on the 0, but it goes up to 12, so it must be for the meters of kilograms or whatever that one is. So anyway, that's 98, so 99, 100. No, I'm talking wrong. Right, scrub that a little bit. Right, so we're going to put this hub nut back on. It's 100 Newton meters as for the first torque. You loosen it back off again, and then it's 20 Newton meters, which is why I've got the second smaller one here. And then we do a 90-degree angle. Now you can easily do that just by going from 12 o'clock position to the 3 o'clock. I've got this just to kind of show it a little bit better for you guys. This isn't particularly great because it shows odd numbers rather than showing whole numbers, so that's on 98, 99, 100, so that makes total sense. It's on the 12. Being sarcastic, by the way, that's just something that irritates me about this one. there you go. Right, I'll try and find where my 30 mil went. What did I do with my 30 mil?
Oh, it's hiding behind the tool.
Ah, there's a little devil. Right, okay, so I'm just going to screw this in by hand first off, which hopefully now that I've cleaned it up a little bit should be quite easy. So I've not taken the car right down, I've just done it enough to get the 100 newton meters of torque on there. In the manual it suggests putting a couple of bolts onto a metal bar, and then that metal bar goes over to a axle stand. And I think the idea is so you're able to put lay the torque down while the car's still up in the air. Now I do wonder if that's to kind of set I don't think on the front here they're a taper bearing anyway, but just in case it is, I'm just going to tighten it up to 100. We're going to lift the car up, spin the wheel, lower it, loosen it again as it says, and then we're going to go to the 20 newton meters. And by that point I can't see why we'd need to turn it really. Okay, that's starting to get nice and tight now, so if I just move my stuff out of the way. Okay, that come up quite quickly. There we go, so that's 100 newton meters, so I'm just going to very quickly jack this up, just enough to be able to spin the wheel. Like I say, I really don't think this is that important. Right, let her down. I'm going to let it right down this time. Okay, now we loosen. Loose. Shouldn't use your torque wrench. I'm going to get this one now. And I've actually got a converter here that goes from what's that, 1/4 inch to 3, I don't know what these sizes are, to 1/2 inch. So we're going to set this one to 20. There we are, that's 20. That's 20 there. Let's use the proper spanner. And now we go 90 degrees. So how you use this, get that there, and you clip that onto something that's not going to move, so I'm just going to clip it to that. Then you can loosen this little wheel, set that to 0, which is there, and then we're going to turn this now. That's hard. Let me get the other ratchet. So we're going to turn that till we get to the 90. Oh, blimey. That is... There we go, on 90 degrees.
Beautiful.
Oh, and look at that. That's brought us right up to be able to put a new cotter pin. New split pin. Right, let me go and get one of those. Bolt in. Push the bolt through there. Leave a little bit sticking out. try to bend them down a little bit better. I don't like the way that bloody twists round. Anyway, there we go. It's only going to stop that from coming undone. Highly unlikely. That's it. Right, so wheel nuts on these, 90 Newton meters. I like to go around them again in a clockwise pattern this time instead of the opposites, just to make sure I've not forgotten any. Easily done on a 5-stud car or anything with any more. So that's how you change a CV joint on a Mark II Cavalier, and probably this is quite similar to a lot of other cars as well. The only thing I'll say is just check your Haynes manual, look it up online for your torque specs with your main hub nut there, and see what procedure you got. Yeah, thoughts on this. So yeah, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, just buy the shafts. Yeah, it is true, it's easier, and probably if not better price wise either, but for me there's still nothing wrong with that joint, and I like doing this sort of stuff anyway. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. So but yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.